All right. Good day. It is Tuesday. It is another edition of Barn Burner. If you are watching on the YouTubes, on Facebook, on Twitter, or X, or Elon, or whatever we're calling it, or Instagram. Rhett, what are you doing? You're back in Buffalo.
Have you referred to it as X?
I'm hearing people sort of transition into the X thing. It's still a lot of people call it Twitter, but then every once in a while somebody like, yeah, I was on X the other day. I'm like, oh, that sounds like you're on a drug at a nightclub. I was on X.
Yeah. It's been a while since I was on X.
So I don't really roll off the tongue.
Not sure I want to go back there.
All kinds of letters. You don't have to do just X. I'm sure there's others you can find. It is. It's a little clunky. X. And apparently, because X is such a naughty letter, in some countries, Twitter, you couldn't even get to for a while. X. 18 plus type content. I don't know.
I guess.
Elon, get Elon. Not sure what the plan there is.
Yeah, I'm not going to judge.
It's decidedly worse since he's owned it, but then maybe he saved it from something else that would have been worse. I don't know.
How can it be better or worse? It's a bunch of idiots talking about stupidity.
Yeah. I just feel like my feed's full of more idiots and less of the people that I've clicked to follow on. I'm like, where are the people I'm following's tweets? Why am I getting idiots that are subscribing $10 a month? I don't want to see these losers' opinions. Get more of that. That's my complaint.
Clearly you use it enough that you can notice a difference, because I would never.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, look, the whole world's falling to shit, right? I mean, Twitter's /X is just one of the many things falling apart, including you, who have crawled back to Buffalo, it appears. I recognize the branches of that olive tree. Where is the art that's usually hanging behind you? This is sad news.
I got booted out of my place. I got to move. Got tossed.
You got tossed? You got a good divorce lawyer, or what's the story here? The shoveler finally done with you?
Yeah, find your own place. So,
see, I thought she'd go back to Buffalo because that's where her family's from. You're doing the switcheroo.
I don't know whether to announce where I'm heading, where the new place will be, or just go live from that place.
Just go live from there. Yeah.
Because it's going to be good. I could also use, well, we'll have to talk about it off the air then, because I don't want to spill the beans. Someone that's been on the show before will be, I'll be able to moon them from my bedroom window.
Also, you're moving to a new place. Are you saying this is in Buffalo or not? How many hints are we giving?
No, there's one in Buffalo.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think of a couple of Buffalonians we've had on, but
good.
A lot of suspense for sure for next week. That's a cliffhanger indeed. You made your mind up here. This is all summer. It was back and forth.
Somebody made up their mind, and the children have been enrolled in sports and activities, and it seems to be a movement about. So, yeah, it's a go forward at this point.
Fantasy camp for Rhett is over. The kids are enrolled in school and sports. You have a home. No more gallivanting and nomadic behavior.
Okay. When your kids are out of school, they drive you nuts, right? Because you're like, oh my, but then when they got to go back to school, I'm annoyed by that too. Like, am I just one of those old farts that I can find no happiness in anything? Like, get out of here, you're bugging me. Shut up, you're loud, do something. And then they're going back to school. Oh, damn it. Now they're in school. I got to get up and I got to take them to school. And they need lunches and
lunches. That's I'm at the end of the rope for summer. I'm ready. We've done a lot of dad kid time. It's time.
Yeah. And it's all wonderful and the memories will be good, but it's like, okay,
they're ready to learn. Yeah.
Just
fill those kids up with some knowledge. I've given all I can give for this summer.
And that's what teachers do. I mean, they're real
clearly.
Good.
Yeah. There's some news, some Flame stuff. We've got a in-studio guest we'll get to in a moment. We have a Pinder Report. We sat down with Tommy Wheeldon Jr. of Cavalry FC yesterday. We'll play that for you at the end of the show today. We got a Betway Bet. I'm extremely hyped on fantasy football. I'm obsessed for the last 2 weeks. It's taken
Really?
over my life. We have drafts coming up. I'd ignored it for most of spring and summer. And then 2 weeks ago, something shook me, and I cannot stop reading, calculating, listening to podcasts, spreadsheeting, mock drafting. It's becoming a problem. I need these kids back to school so I can get more fantasy draft prep in.
Yeah, so you can full-time fantasy prep. I've been there, and it's much like the internet and X and Twitter and social. It's the best and the worst. It gets you excited. You're into it. You're making lists, and then 4 hours go by, and you're like, "What the H have I done with this does not matter." Right?
Yeah.
You got
I got this great team. They're so good. Broken leg, MCL tear, concussion. My whole team's dead. I got a graveyard for a team. What's happening?
And the best case scenario is you win the league and they take you for a beer and wings, and it's like, yahoo! Right? Like
that's right. That was my part-time job. That was my 20 hours a week turned into beer and wings. What an idiot. What a waste of time.
I told this before. The first time I ever played fantasy, it was baseball. I love baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And it got me into it. And I just retired. I was getting up at 4:30 in the morning to be the first one on the waiver wire. Like, just a nut job.
Did you co-own that team with someone? I feel like you co-owned with someone, didn't you?
Not that one. Not that one. I eventually co-owned one with Boom, and he owned it and didn't do it. But I actually, again, much like social media and phones or whatever you get addicted to, I had to cut it off. I'm like, you're an idiot. I remember getting mad at my buddies that I was in it with. I'm like, dude, fantasy baseball, chill.
It's pretend sports. Let's not ruin relationships.
Yes.
Well, I'm of a different mind. Starting September 7th, I'm ready to ruin relationships again. Our draft's going to be the night before the beginning of the NFL season, as per usual. We have a bunch of media hacks in a league, and I need you to show up on time on your computer on the 6th, the night before Thursday night kickoff of the season.
Oh, it's the 6th now?
Detroit, Kansas City.
Okay. Usually it's on my anniversary, so I get a robo pick, and it's terrible. I get
the auto pick. Yeah, usually pick as many Bills as you can, then you quit and you auto draft the rest of your team.
That's stupid.
Tried and true. If you want to finish from 6th to last, it works every single time. Okay, let's get to some news. I thought of you immediately. I saw Boom tweeting about it. The whole hockey world mourning might not be the right word, but I think maybe more celebrating and remembering an incredible 80-plus years for Rick Jeanneret, the play-by-play voice of the Sabres. You were a Sabre, as we all know, and he was a bleeping legend. There are sports broadcasters, there are play-by-play guys, there are certain voices that you associate with certain teams, but I don't know that there was ever a Rick Jeanneret for a team more than this guy meant to the city of Buffalo and the Sabres.
Yeah, you'd have a hard time finding somebody that more symbolized their franchise that they called games for than Rick. And I was teary-eyed. I had to go outside. I got some texts and some tweets or whatever they are, or X's, or anyway, heard the news, and I had to take a moment, and he was awesome. I still remember. I mean, you remembered him always anyway. As a kid, you'd heard him, and it was such a great voice and a great call. But for me personally, it was when my mom and dad phoned me after my first game. We played in Detroit, and I happened to fluke out. And again, it's Rick Jeanneret's professionalism. I hit Yzerman like my first shift. I mean, bumped into him, and Jeanneret, Warner lays out Yzerman. And right, like it makes everything so good. And my parents phoned, and they're like, "Oh my God, the game was so exciting. Jeanneret is, so good." Like I think that probably my parents' fondest memories are the Buffalo years, and part of that reason is because of Rick's calls.
Yeah, there's so many iconic calls. You got the Mayday one, you have La 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 Fontaine. I mean, on and on it went. And, there's been a lot of lean years around there, but whenever there's a big goal, you didn't worry about Rick not hitting the high note on it.
I've bragged about how big a name Rob Ray is around this area. Rick's bigger. Like I
Crazy.
the Bills are obviously big. Yeah, so you got the Jim Kellys and the '90s teams and the 4 finals, and there's. I think Jeanneret's bigger than all of them. His name holds more. I would suspect, and I don't think they're doing a memorial, and if it is, it'll be a small one that's kind of probably not announced. But I would suspect that the city would have to shut down if they were to hold a Rick Jeanneret memorial service, wake or whatever, whatever they put out there. I honest to God, it would be gridlock traffic and everyone would stop and attend and give their thanks and prayers because he was that big. And the other thing that the people here don't, I think they understand a little bit, but when you're from here and that's all you've ever had and listened to, and you know how great he was, I don't think you understand how big his name was across the league, across North America, right? Like, it's not like it was just Buffalonians that liked hearing Rick Jeanneret call a game.
Yeah, I think a lot of you, I could believe that Buffalonians would be like, oh, he's ours. We're a little small market, hockey mad city. We're not big. Yeah. We love him. And I don't even know if other teams, no, you go any building, that guy, everyone's heard the calls, iconic voice. And I don't know that as someone that's not a player, if you could have more association with a team than him and the Sabres. Pretty cool.
So here, and this just popped into my head, and I don't know if it's good or it makes me sad or happy. AI is getting pretty good at stuff. I can't wait for when AI can call a game with Rick Jeanneret's voice, right? Like, how awesome would that be?
Yes. Well, I think we had it. I think, Jack, did we find it like months ago when we found they were making music and it was like,
oh yeah,
make a song with like Biggie's lyrics with the sound of The Weeknd and like Jay-Z's voice or something like that. And you're like, what? And then you're like, oh, they can do that. But like, yeah, if you could just have Rick Jeanneret doing AI play-by-play on your NHL 24, that'd be pretty cool. I don't know, man. Like, who's to say happen? Because I don't know.
I guarantee you know what it'll be, because I don't know. They're smarter than me, obviously. But even if you have some dope like you or me calling the game, and they would just voice over with Jeanneret's, like.
Honestly, I think you're honest. I think you could get like Bob Cole's voice. He's still around. Obviously, you could go like Howie Meeker, who was that famous analyst way back, like Foster Hewitt. Peter, like, why not? You should be able to sort through and pick if the computers, as long as you're not taking over the world. Let's use you for some good or some fun here. Let's go.
Tell you what, that is something. Somebody's going to do it. Clearly, they're going to have to be smarter than us. But I can see it coming. Can you imagine? Rick Jeanneret comes back in 2 years and he's the voice again. Oh my God.
That's wild. We have an NHL signing to talk about. The Calgary Flames need a captain, want a captain, going to have a captain. Apparently, Connie and Huska and management's going to make the decision on a captain. We had Rob Kerr's show yesterday, Just a Game. Jack was with him, asking some questions from the fans, and the captain conversations become a little more prominent because Mackenzie Weegar in the last few days noted that he would love to be the captain. Here was a little snippet from Just a Game yesterday with Kerr and Jack.
Think will be the captain of the Flames, and who do you want to be the captain of the Flames?
Backlund, I want, and I wonder if he won't be the captain. Boy, did you see a lot of this Mackenzie Weegar stuff? Yeah, a lot of people
lots of people hyping that up.
Lots of people and I don't think that's a bad choice. I think, you got some tenure there. It makes a lot of sense. Backlund has put in the time. Backlund loves this team, loves the city, loves the logo. Yes. I know he was in the Swedish newspaper saying, we'll wait and see and all of that. That's just common sense. That's just good business. But Michael Backlund's ingrained in this community. He supports 3 different charities in this community. He has worked and cobbled at the feet of Jerome McGinley, at Mark Giordano. I think he should be the captain, but it's a 2-part question. I think he should be the captain. I'm going to go with, I wonder if Mackenzie Weegar isn't the captain because you have him for 4 more years after this. But I think both are good choices. I think it was an absolute shame. I just think it's a mistake not to have a captain.
Yeah.
And Backlund was acting as that last year. I don't care what anybody says. He was the one of the de facto captains on this team.
So that was Kerr yesterday. Jack relaying some listener questions to him. Just any reaction, thought on that? Are there other candidates we're not talking about? We should be. Is this cast a wide net? Do they already know the couple, 2, 3, 4 guys they're looking at?
I'm sure they've got it narrowed down to 1 or 2. In response to Rob, I like Backlund too. Problem for me, I've said it, I can't change my tune now. You either are or you aren't. And Michael Backlund's had a few years now to establish that he is. And I don't think, to me, a coach, maybe it does happen. I've never seen it, but I don't think a coach holds the captaincy back from a guy. Do you know what I mean? If you truly are the captain, it's been a few years now, you could have grabbed the reins, or you just are recognized as captain and the players are, then it would. So I just don't think he's there.
Why hasn't it happened yet? That sounds
exactly
like what you're asking.
He's been around forever, and yes, he's done all those things, and yes, he's integral in the community. He gives back. He's everything Rob said for sure. But if you're the captain, it just happens. It's announced right by now. You don't need you certainly shouldn't need Conroy and Huska to have to make that decision. The players should be making the decision. And I don't know enough about Uyghur personally. He's been here a year. He was horseshit to start, really turned it around, saying the right things. Looks like he's getting involved. Looks he's taking on the role of a leadership. I mean, but what the hell are we talking about? He's come to Calgary to go party for Stampede and do a charity event. Like, I don't know. Does that make him the captain? It's the guys in the room that should be deciding, not the coaches.
Yeah. Talking to people that were real close to the team, Backlund was sort of the guy that I think a lot of people wanted to be that last year, and why they didn't have a captain. I don't know that. Well, what's that?
Who wanted though? Like the players wanted
the players.
Him to be. Yeah. Well, why wasn't he the captain the year before?
I don't know.
Or the year before that?
That's a good question. I don't have answers for it. Like Daryl took over this team when Giordano was the captain. Gio left via the expansion draft. And then Daryl's first year, they went no captain, and I understand that. And then his second year, you had even more changes, and they said no captain. And we never got a great, here's why we're not doing a captaincy thing. Or it might just have been as simple to Daryl that I don't see a leader here who is a capital C captain. And so we're going to, not anoint anyone that. But I have a problem with Backlund getting it if he doesn't have an extension in place. And I'm not suggesting that I just think it would be clunky if you're out of the playoffs. He's your captain. He's Mr. Community, and then you trade him at the deadline. Like, what are we doing here?
I hate both scenarios with that. First of all, I think the players should pick the captain. I don't think what the difference does it make to the coaches and the coaches and the management should have to work with the captain that the players nominate because he's the leader in the room. The coaches and the management shouldn't be nominating a guy to be captain. It's backwards, in my opinion. What you said is true as well. If he is, and again, I'm not against Backlund, but if he was the guy, then fuck, the players should have went in and said to the coach, Daryl, whoever else, this is our captain. It shouldn't be a debatable thing. And it shouldn't again be Huska and Conroy deciding. Here's the vote in training camp. Who's the captain? You're the captain. Great. But
my feel is that okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I don't sorry, I just wanted to finish that. I don't want to reward Michael Backlund with an extension if he's only because you're naming him captain.
Yeah, or vice versa. I guess vice versa I might accept. If he wanted to sign an extension below market because he really wanted to be captain and you already have him as your captain, I'm okay with that. But the opposite I don't like. He's the closest thing we have to a real leader here, so let's give him 2 more years at too much money. No. That's not how this is going to work. And for Uyghur, I'm kind of with you. I think you've seen, he wore the C for Team Canada, if I'm correct, at the World Championships this past summer. That's not nothing. It certainly isn't being a captain in the NHL. It's a 3-week tournament, not a 7-month season. And I don't know the human well enough. I certainly think there are some leadership traits in there. He sticks up for his teammates. He works hard, but I don't know the guy off the ice, and we haven't seen him in the community long enough for me to say like, oh, for sure that guy's a captain. And then I also wonder about like, okay, there's some younger guys that have been around a while. Like, where does Rasmus Anderson fit in all this? Do you see, is there another guy quietly that leads like by example that maybe we aren't talking about? I don't know. I mean, but I also get the sense that the players and Connie and Huska, these two groups, I don't think they're singing from the different hymn books. I think Huska being around that team last year would have known who actually was the guy and who the players would want to be. I don't know that they're throwing a curveball to the players, right, where they're saying, hey, you guys all like Backlund, screw that, it's Uyghur, because Uyghurs, we got him in our pocket. No, I don't think that's happening.
I don't think that's happening either, but don't muddy the waters. Let the players pick. Come to training camp. What the fuck do you need to announce? Sorry, I'm grumpy today. I didn't get enough sleep. I'm reading this new book. It's keep me up all night. But what do you need to announce it today for? Because you need positive media vibe right now? Because you haven't done horse shit over the year or over the summer? Like, we don't need it. Players come to or the fact that they're saying they're picking is wrong to me. Shut up. Don't say that. Just announce it, first of all, or phone your players and say, who's your captain? Or do a monkey.
It's off season.
One of those survey things. Can't you fill out those monkeys?
Survey monkey. There you are. Okay.
There you go. Why
get AI to pick one? Let's go, guys.
Yes. There's so many ways of doing this that aren't clunky, and they're making it clunky.
Yeah. Well, and I think part of this is that there's no news in an off season, and people need to talk about this team for a living, and so you get the. You know, Uyghur goes on local media and they ask him, and here we go. Now it's something to talk about.
What do the Flames need again after the offseason they've had? They need a positive vibe because nothing's happened. You're coming back with the same team, new coach, but same coach, and people are wondering what's going on. Let's throw a captain out there. He can start answering some questions, and we'll have a nice story.
What's this book you're reading? Is AI? Medicine?
I'm a big book guy, but my eyes are going not good at giving me headaches. I don't know what it is about like pirates and oceans and those types of stories. But those crazy bastards back in the day, can you imagine walking onto one of these rickety old wooden hulled pieces of S and thinking, it's only going to be 2 or 3 years I'm on this? Like, what? What are you talking about? And
hey, Rat, what are you doing this weekend? Do you want to go see if the world's flat? Let's just keep sailing and see if we fall off somewhere.
Yeah, and hope the wind blows and that you don't get scurvy or typhus or anything else. It'll be great. Or a pirate attack you, and we're going to go around this point. I think it's called Cape Good or Hope or some damn thing. We're gonna go down near. It's real cold down. We're down south. We'll go around the bottom of South America.
Around the Horn.
Yes. Yeah, we'll go check it out, and it'll be great. And it's big waves, but whatever. Anyway, it's called.
Okay, so I read a book about this years ago. That is like the most dangerous waters to sail on Earth, because you have the warm waters of one ocean meeting with the colder waters of another ocean at the tip of Argentina there, and just above Antarctica. And apparently they would do races around the world, and until someone got around the horn there of South America, it was like, you haven't accomplished shit. The meanest waters are yet to come.
Yeah, and apparently it goes from 1,300 feet deep to 300 feet deep, so all the water swell. Like, it's supposed to be just no thank you. I've been on the ocean in like 8-foot swells, and I'm like, get me the out of here. This is terrible.
Yeah, you're from Saskatchewan, Rat. I mean, you can't get 8-foot swells on what, Emma Lake or?
And I'm gonna go with the best segue ever. From Saskatchewan, from Saskatoon, and that damn Brandon Hagel. What a deal! The newest
8 times 6.5.
Well done, son. Sasker.
There it is. Is he smiling there? I think so.
Oh.
I mean, You got what, 50 million reasons to be smiling. I'm okay with that. 52 million. My math's a little
High
shaky
fives
this morning.
all around, Pinder. High fives all around.
Ooh-wee. So how are you liking Tampa? Yeah, pretty good. we were dog shit in Chicago. And I get to play with, Stamkos, Kucherov, Point, Hedman, Vasilevsky. Every year they just add some more guys at the deadline. We're good.
This poor bugger. This poor bugger. 6th round pick. Where's he going? Oh God, Buffalo. Jesus, this is no good. Get me out of Buffalo. Yeah,
Is that where he was drafted?
Yes, 6th round,
Wow.
59th overall in 2016. Right? Wow.
They liked him a lot. They moved 2 firsts, I believe, and some prospects as well. I think it was also Boris Kachuk and one other young player that they had there that I'm blanking on at the moment, Taylor Radish. And it was like 2 firsts, 2 prospects for what? But he had 2 more years at really low number, and that helped them fit under the cap. This isn't for this season. This will kick in the year after this season, if I'm correct. And so they basically got a super cheap, functional guy that they're, people are calling a top 6 forward. I sort of see him as a middle 6. I never see him as a top line guy, but he works his tail off, and that's a good little. I like it for both sides. Chicago, you got a ton for this guy. This kid, he's happy. Life's great down in Tampa. And for the Lightning, it's like, okay, so you gave up 2 picks that would have been like 25 or 28 or 30. There's no way those picks are helping you do anything this year or next year. You got to wait years to see if it's a ham sandwich or a player. Those deals are kind of eye-opening, but I think they worked for everyone.
Well, the deal that didn't work out was the Sabres deal. They let him go for nothing.
That's the one you don't want to do. Yeah, that's a good call. So if it's 2 prospects, 2 firsts, or nothing, you take the 2 prospects and 2 firsts.
You're brilliant. You draft the guy. Yes.
Yeah.
Woohoo! We got a guy in the 6th round. He's gonna be good. He's not that good.
Almost like drafting a guy that wins a Norris in his 2nd year in the league. Incredible stuff. Flames did it. I didn't sign here. Adam Fox. God damn it.
Oh, well.
Yeah. Okay. And what else is going on with life? You said kids are back on the ice already. You got hockey's rolling.
It's mayhem. It's on. We
Yeah.
got 8 games this weekend. We got practices. We got training camp. Oh, baby. Yeah.
They're showing
It's
up fat
busy.
like you used to, right? They haven't skated all summer.
Well, the youngest, the coaches, they sent out an email today, and there was a question: are we doing the practice? Are we doing a warm up before every practice? Because yesterday we did a little warm up before practice. Got to get the body ready. And I emailed back and I said, listen, I've just met you people and I'm not judging, but perhaps the coaches should participate in said warm up because by the looks of us, we need it. So
just 20 kids on 20 different programs out there warming up.
Some toe touches, some deep knee bends. We're good to go. Wow, it's busy, but good.
When does it get shitty there? October, November? Like just around the time that people say the Bills are going to win the Super Bowl, that's when everything changes there.
It's weird. There's a little bit of Calgary in Buffalo because I've seen people golfing in December. So you just never know.
I am looking forward, now that we know you're back there for the season, to that 1 to 4 days a year while you can open your garage and still have a door there. It's just a wall of snow. You open the door frame and I'm under a snowbank. How are we getting air in this house? I don't know. I'm excited for those coming days this winter. Brave of you.
It's going to be great.
Okay, I want you to have our guest in studio, waiting patiently, and may even have some Brandon Hagel insights. Fitness guru, entrepreneur, pilot, goalie coach, legend in Russia, and the goalie of the greatest World Junior team in the history of time, the 2004 World Junior team from Canada. Jeff Glass joins us in studio. Glasser, hello! Look, there he is. Oh. We need his mic.
Head in the picture.
There we are. Now we are.
There we are.
Well,
how's that? Can you guys hear me now?
There we are. So you were Chicago in your stop on the circuit there.
Yeah.
Do you have any Hagel insights?
No, I got absolutely nothing on Hagel whatsoever. Everything you guys just said, I just learned. So no, I didn't even know he's from Saskatchewan.
You should get to know him because he could pay for the tab at the end of the night. Now he's all set.
That's right.
No, he's definitely all set now. Nothing wrong with that.
With your boy Point too, who you've trained with a bunch.
Yeah, no, there's a few guys down there I know. I think Tampa's got something cooking down there, right? Like it's not a hard place to sign up for, and so I think they'll be all right.
Yeah. Rhett, enjoy the day. We're gonna hang with Glasser, tell some stories. We got a Pinder Report. We got Tommy Wilden Jr. coming up, and I have some Betway bets of the day still to come.
Nail it, boys. Have a great one.
Yeah,
all right. We'll see you.
There's the Rhettster back in Buffalo. It is quite a life he leads, is it not?
It's awesome. Like I said, I admit I don't watch this show every day, but when I tune in and I saw that, it's pretty amazing.
It'd be like Rhett's on a headset. Is he driving truck for a living? Oh no, he's just driving to Pittsburgh. Or, oh, there he is in the parking lot of the Hamilton Airport. Oh, he's back. He's in studio in Calgary. He's in Boomer's basement. He's in his house in Buffalo. We never really know. It's quite something. How's your summer been? I love catching up with you. I didn't give you the intro you probably deserve, but I admire this human so much for the amount of things you are willing to get at, try your hand in, hard worker, relentless, fearless, and like fingers in as many pies as you could ever imagine. Spin studio, goaltending camp this summer, goalie coach for the Anaheim Ducks affiliate in San Diego, long playing career in Russia. You come back and work your way back up to the NHL at the age of 33, which is almost unheard of. Amazing story there, the World Junior stuff. And then, oh, by the way, you just got a little bored along the way and decided to get your pilot's license and you're flying around all the time. Like what's a normal Jeff Glass day look like? Have you been in a plane yet today?
No plane yet. I've been on the ice, but no plane yet today. No, I appreciate that. That's nice of you, but it's my life has probably been one of those ones where, I wasn't a first rounder. I wasn't the Brandon Hagel signing the $56 million deal. So I kind of, skirted around the edges a little bit, let's say. And it's been good. It's been fun. It's been an awesome summer. Calgary's been home for me my whole life. So we wanted to come back, and the hockey school is a big part of it for sure. We want to come back and kind of do that thing. But then, like you said, I got into the flying, and I've got a little bit of a gig going on the side with the flying thing. So that's fun. And then you kind of meld it all together, and it's called life, I guess. But yeah, if I was all those things you said I was, I wouldn't have to come in here on an middle of August and fill in for you guys, right? I'd be doing something way bigger and better. But this is exactly what I love doing, and it's been great. Tell us about the flying gig. So how does that mix in with goal camp here in the summer? And I imagine, for what, 8 to 10 months a year, you're tied up with goal stuff in San Diego, but you're still coming back to Calgary to do your camp, and the flying fits in as well here. Yeah, no, the flying thing, I think I've told you off the air before. It's something I love doing, and I've always wanted to do. And I don't know, I guess I could probably tell these stories now that I'm not a player anymore, but it all started back when I was with the Marlies, and I got left behind on a road trip, and I actually tell the goalies now, I tell the goalies in San Diego, I tell the young goalies, you should always have something outside of hockey. And I didn't. And so the Marlies go on a road trip, and I was the extra goalie. So I got left behind. I'm pissed off. And I tell my wife, all right, I'm going to walk over to the airport and figure out what's going on. And we're staying right downtown Toronto. So I wander over to Billy Bishop, and how does this work? And we'll take you up right now. What do you mean you'll take me up? So they took me up. We toured around the CN Tower. We went up and down the beaches. Well, that was awesome. When do I get to go again? You can come tomorrow if you want. And the boys were gone on a 4-day road trip. So I said, all right, well, yeah, I'll be back tomorrow, and I'll be back the next 3 days after that. And that's kind of where it started. So I picked it up, and I guess I got to thank Lou Lamorello for that, because he was the one who said, yeah, you can come play on our team, but we don't really need you just yet. And just stay over off to the side a little bit. And it worked perfect. So I started there. It continued on to Rockford, finished the private pilots in San Diego. And then I've added on some, let's call it, some ratings and some stuff. So now I'm a commercial pilot, and I fly for a company here in Calgary that we prevent hail. In theory, that's our jobs. I don't want people coming at me on the internet now saying, hey, my house got smoked by hail, it's all your fault. But we go up and we try to make the big hail little hail, to simplify. And we're hired by a bunch of insurance companies to kind of get ahead of these storms and see if we can keep everybody's homes and cars safe. So it as a pilot, it keeps me in the air. It's something I love to do. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And those are 3 places that you mentioned flying before Calgary that'd be some pretty interesting airspace. Like Toronto's busy,
Chicago, like O'Hare is one of the busiest airports on earth. That can be hairy, and Rockford's just outside Chicago. So you got lots of stuff going on there. And then Southern California be absolutely bonkers with LA, San Diego, all the different airports around there that aren't the LAX and the San Diego one. I mean, those would be really interesting places to learn to fly and to deal with all the chaos of a busy airspace.
Yeah, and it was exactly that. And I always say, like, yeah, I'm lucky. Not everybody gets to fly in 3 of those different types of airspaces. And to your point, actually, the Chicago one in Rockford, we were flying over cornfields. Like, we were just outside, and so that was actually fun because it's a bunch of uncontrolled airspace, and you're kind of on your own. It's a little bit of a rodeo, and then you get from there to like LA, where you're flying right over LAX, and you're doing all sorts of fun stuff there. So that it's all different types of flying, and I don't think I realized, because when you're a hockey player, you're told you're only supposed to be a hockey player, and at least our generation. And so they said, you know what, like, I was so nervous to tell people I was a pilot because I was worried they were going to think I was taking hockey lately and I wasn't focused on hockey. Like, aren't you trying to make the NHL? Well, yeah, but like, we do have a life outside of hockey. And so that was, once I realized how much I actually enjoyed flying and doing all this stuff in aviation, well, then it was a little easier to talk about, because now I've got my ratings, and now I'm, a certified flight instructor. And now I it's okay to talk about this now. And I try to encourage that to the goalies I'm coaching now. It's like, go find something, go do something, because the back half of my career was better than the first half of my career. And I think it was because I had something outside of the rink. And it wasn't just, go to the rink and then come home from the rink and fret about the rink and then, stir about it and couldn't go back to the rink and spin that in the circles over and over. It was go home, get your mind away from it, go for a flight, and come back and reattack it tomorrow.
That's interesting. I never heard you say that. So the second half of your career, you enjoyed more than the first. The first is probably, I would suggest, where you made the most money and you would have traveled the most. But in the second half, you had more of a life away from it. Wife, daughter, and sort of a second hobby. I never heard you say that.
No, and like, don't get me wrong. Like, my career is probably waves like this, and I had the World Juniors, which is a high, maybe the highest part of my career, and that was fun, and we win a gold medal, and then reality sets in, and it's like East Coast Hockey League, and you're going to start right from the bottom, and you're going to grind your way up. I thought I was going to step right into Ottawa and like make the team as a 19-year-old. Like, how hard could this be? Then you realize, okay, it's hard. And so then you do this. So then I go over to Russia, and it was good in Russia. Like you said, I was able to make some money, play on some good teams, have some success, but it was always just like middling. And I couldn't really gain any traction and get going and try to accomplish something. So then that's why I needed a new challenge. And that's why we came back, and I was like, I want to make the NHL. I never did it before. I want to do it now. And I came back, and that's when I started to like focus on hockey. And that's when I put a plan in place, and people have heard me talk about this before, but it wasn't just a fluke then. I was motivated, and I had a mindset and a goal, and I went after it. And then maybe that's why I consider it more successful, is because I set out to do something and I did it, rather than the first half of my career. I was kind of like, well, it should just come. Like, all my buddies did
I'm
it.
owed this.
This is my time, right? And I'm the World Juniors goalie. Like, you should want me, right? And then I realized, no, it doesn't work that way. And so I think when my mindset flipped, maybe that's why I view it as more successful, whether or not it was, I mean, this or that.
You were part of a logjam in Bennington, if I'm correct.
Bennington, yeah.
In the Ottawa organization. Walk us back to the decision to go to Russia in the first place, and then we'll get to the decision to leave Russia.
Yeah, and so this is maybe more my mindset. The decision to go to Russia is because Ottawa didn't qualify me a second time. And so I was a free agent, and I was like, perfect. I'm going to go sign my Brandon Hagel money. I'm going to go,
right.
Here it comes, baby. And like crickets, like nothing comes. And so, all right, well, you can go play on this American League team, or you can go kind of like, you might start in the coast here or Russia. And good friend and another goalie, Ray Emery, he went over the year before, and he went over for a year, kills it. Everybody's calling for him, and he comes back, and the rest is history. I said, well, that's exactly what I want to do.
That's the move.
That's the move. I'll go for 1 year and I'll come back. Well, month into the first year, they offer me an extension. Okay, well, yeah, no, that's way more money. I'll take that.
Like that.
And then the next year, it's a new team with more, and as the story goes, the number kept getting bigger, and the team kept getting better, and we were more competitive. And 1 year over there to kind of like rejuvenate my career turned into like 7 years. And now it's 7 years, and I'm 30, and I'm going, well, this is good. And any of the guys that have played in Russia can speak to this. But at some point, you start to say, like, all right, like, enough's enough.
This isn't sustainable.
This isn't what I'm going to do
Too
forever.
much chaos.
Yeah, it's everything's on fire every day, right? Like, let's just have some little bit of normalcy. So then that's when I decided, all right, I want to give this a try and come back. But the decision to go over there, I don't want to say it was made for me, but I was kind of pushed into a corner where it was like, here, you can go play for said team in the East Coast or American League and grind from the bottom again, or you can go over to Russia and try it for a year, rejuvenate your career and come back. And I thought, oh, that's the move for sure.
And financially, it would have been close. If you're comparing AHL, ECHL, like you may as well add a zero at the end.
It really was exactly that, maybe two, right? You're right. You know what I mean? And it was like exactly that. Financially, it wasn't close. And so you said, okay, came off my entry-level deal and go over for a year. And worst case scenario, made a little bit of money, come back, and I'm probably exactly where I left.
And so then when you decided to come back, you were like, okay, well, I've played well in Russia. I've established myself here. I want to have a better life. You know, you're married. You're probably daughter's not quite there yet, but getting close.
But getting close, yeah.
And it's like, okay, we've got to set up our life and not just be mercenaries traveling around a foreign country on the other side of the world where I don't speak the language. Like, let's set up some normal. You knew that was going to be tough because you kind of, when you're that age, you're painted as something, and you were painted as a KHL goalie at that point.
Yeah, I had to try everything to try to lose that label, right? And it was like normalize my gear. I switched to CCM because it was a gear that like made me look like a goalie, right? It was
so what you were wearing before.
It was just like, to be honest, it was kind of a makeshift setup that I had. It was like a buddy was doing a buddy a favor, and he had this new brand that was coming out. I thought it was sick, but it was like you didn't really look like Jacob Markstrom. You look like a street hockey goalie. So it was like
that guy plays in Russia.
That's definitely a Russian goalie.
He makes money in paper bags.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going for. So I ditched that. You get the gear, and then but you can't ditch the age, right? And that was what I was. I was a 30-year-old guy, and I was talking to a goalie that's with Pittsburgh now, just yesterday, and I was talking about Kyle Dubas, because Kyle Dubas, he was the assistant GM with the Marlies, and he was the one who said, like, we'll bring you on, Jeff. We'd love to have you, but like, no offense, like, you're 30, right? Like, we're not, by all means, stick around with the Marlies. And he was so upfront and such, I can't say how good he was to me. He's just a great guy, and he was straight up with the whole process. But they had two young prospects. They had Garrett Sparks and Anton Bibo, and he goes, these are our guys, and we're trying to. So if you want to stick around, there might be some room somewhere, and if something comes up, I'll move you. But like, we love having you around. You're a good guy. And so then that's when I started to realize, oh, I see how this works. Like, I got to kind of be a mentor. I got to kind of take on a different role here. It's not about me when I go to the rink. I got to get my time in when it's time, but I can't make it about me. I got to kind of take a back seat. And that's what I did. And it allowed me enough time to stick around with the Marlies, to then they shipped me to Rockford. And then Rockford was in desperate need of a goalie. So when I showed up there, they were kind of floundering around, but they needed a goalie like
play
yesterday,
the wheels off you.
So that I played every game. And then from there you sign with Chicago, get called up, and away we go. Right. But it was, I realized I was a 30-year-old goalie who'd been in Russia for 7 years. It was like start at the bottom again. Away we go. Wild. Yep.
I remember I'd met you, I think, before you'd started that journey, and just like, you're coming back to North America. Like, what? Like, that's wild. Like, cause you had it good over there in a way. I mean, it always comes with different challenges. Like, you might get offered a lot of money and then you're trying to collect it years later, a piece of that or whatever it is. But like, you were established as a go-to guy. You were like a locked, pay this import, he'll help your team caliber player over there. And those guys, they do well.
Yeah, it was exactly that. I mean, there's times my wife and I look at each other and we go, geez, like, one more year would have been all right. Right? Like, it wasn't so bad, was it? But we were, in all reality, I wanted to make the NHL, and we wanted to have a baby too. And so it was like, you know, with all due respect, everything that went on in Russia, the spots we were playing probably wasn't the best to just do the whole baby thing over there. So we said, let's come back, try the North America thing. Like I said, we were feeling pretty comfy after 7 years over there. So we decided, all right, let's switch it up here and try something new.
Yeah. So you come back, you make the debut at, I believe, 33 with Chicago, which is wild. I mean, you talk about paying dues all over again. You did it. You happened to do it on a Western Canadian swing. You took a point off the Oilers, I believe. Good, appreciate that. Thank you.
I think, yeah, we got the win. It was in overtime. You're
right.
So
but it was, you had a lead late. And
we blew it. Yeah, we totally blew it.
But what was it? It was Vancouver. There was an injury. You made your debut in Edmonton, or was it in Vancouver? You came in late. I'm trying to remember. It was Vancouver, Edmonton, Calgary.
No, it's such a fun story. I haven't got to tell these stories for a while, but it was a Christmas break. So I'm with Rockford, and we got 3 days off in the American League. So our daughter was brand new. Let's take her back to Calgary. Everybody, family and friends, can see her. My wife was going to stick around for another day or two, but I had to fly back Christmas Day. because we practiced on Boxing Day in Rockford. I believe we might have even played Boxing Day. So I'm flying back Christmas Day, and like any American League player will tell you, like, it's Christmas. So you feel like you owe it to yourself to, like, you know, eat, have some drinks, like, enjoy. It's Christmas.
Yeah.
Like, whatever, I'll sweat it out tomorrow. So get on the plane, pass out, we land, and my phone is just lighting up. I'm at O'Hare, and what is going on? And it's the GM from Rockford, and he's trying to get a hold of me. And so call him back. We haven't got off the tarmac. He said, yeah, we're calling you up to Chicago. Something's happened. Like, well, who got hurt? I can't tell you, but just, you got to drive from O'Hare back to Rockford, back to O'Hare, because the team charter is leaving tomorrow morning at 7 a.m.
So
for Vancouver.
get your gear and then get back. And
Right. So I flew from Calgary to Chicago for like 12 hours to grab my gear to get back on a plane to go back to Vancouver the next day. Right. So now I'm in Vancouver, a little bit of a whirlwind, haven't skated in 4 days, and now I'm getting called up. And so we skated Boxing Day when we landed, and then we were playing I believe it's the 27th against Vancouver. And Chicago that year, there's no secret, they couldn't find their footing. And so Anton Forsberg was a little bit in the doghouse, and I got called up. And I should back up. I guess I found out that Corey Crawford was just unavailable, and that was the start of that whole thing of, we couldn't figure out what was wrong with Crow. So Anton Forsberg stayed to start. He goes in, and it just didn't go well. And as a goalie, you feel for a guy when he's in this spot, but you know exactly, like, everybody was staring at him, and the pressure was on, and it was just going the wrong way. So it was actually the video coach who I had in Binghamton, which is the smallest story of all time. He goes, like, after the game, Glasser's like, make sure you're ready to go tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? Like, I'm here as a call up. Like, I don't know, but the way he looked at me, I could tell he was just coming from the coach's office. Like,
Oh, yeah.
something was going on. So I was like, all right, we're going to get on the bird. We're flying to Edmonton, and then we play, you know, McJesus coming off of like 5 days and at home, you know, whatever. I said, oh, perfect. Right.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah, right. Oh, this should be fun. What could possibly go wrong? So land in Edmonton, go to get on the elevator. Goalie coach Jimmy Waite says, yeah, you'll play tomorrow. So that's now, I don't know, 2, 3 in the morning. Do you want to skate? Yeah, I want to skate. So did a morning skate, called everybody I knew, rounded up the troops. Everybody makes the trip up from Calgary to Edmonton, and away we go.
And it's funny because that 04 World Junior team you're a part of, you had some teammates on the Chicago team that didn't even know that was your debut. They assumed that, like, oh no, like, he's a journeyman. He's played a bunch before. Like, Seabrook was on that team. Like, who walk us through that? And even I think the coach at the time might've been, or it was the next year.
It was the next year. Yeah.
Anyway.
So no, yeah. So it was Seabrook was the funny one, because you know, you put money on the board and you try to, you know, take care of everybody. It's your first year debut. And I was sitting right next to him in the dressing room. He's like, what are you doing? And I was like, well, it's my first game. It's your first game, like, since when? And he's like, yeah, like, ever. Like, what do you mean ever? And we'd known each other. We were roommates at World Juniors. Like, first game, like, ever? And I'm like, yeah, man. Like, he's like, holy. So yeah, so we
so he puts a couple of brown bills up after that.
Yeah, I got the boys' attention then, but it was I think he said something before the game in front of everybody, like, holy, it's this guy's first game. Like, let's put a half decent effort in. And then and the story that I love telling, or my favorite part, was like, yeah, we blew it. Actually, Seabrook tried to stop it was kind of like a half-ass point shot, and he tried to get a glove on it, knocked it in, and it went in. So we were up 3-1 with like 2 minutes left in the game.
Yeah, I remember this.
And it was like bang, bang. I think the second one might even been Draisaitl. It's 3-3. We're going to overtime. Like, I can't believe I just blew this, right?
2 minutes, 2 miles, boys. Let's go.
How hard is that? And then Patrick Kane scored in overtime. And there's a picture out there somewhere, and I got it somewhere, but he's pointing at me after he scored, right? And it was like, yeah, and I was the happiest I'll ever be right there, right? And it was like everything couldn't have been better than that. So yeah, so got to play there, and then we came to Calgary 2 nights later. Yeah, so it was pretty cool. It was a good run. It was like storybook stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, you couldn't have drawn it up any better.
Yeah, I mean, and look, you didn't play till you were like 42 or do some weird Tim Thomas stuff, because he was one of those guys that didn't show up in the league till late. But you got it, you did it. You'd climbed the mountain, and I love that you're honest about, you had to sort of reset your approach and understand that, hey, nothing is given here; it's all earned, and that you probably mentally weren't ready to be an AHLer at 23, 24, where at 30, you're like, okay, here's how I do it. I know how. You had to be the best teammate in the world when you were in the Marlies. You needed some luck along the way. And then when you went in, you had to be flexible. Don't throw a temper tantrum. You haven't been skating for 5 days. Get in there and make the best of it, right?
Yeah, no, you nailed it. That's exactly how it is. And now you kind of fast forward to the coaching side. It's easier to tell that story now or sell that narrative. Is like it's not going to be perfect, right? But I got to Chicago. Now I looked around and I go, oh, I can do this, right? The competitive nature in all of us comes out, and you're like, well, now I want to be here forever. Like, don't take my spot, right? So every time you reach a milestone, it was like, all right, reset it and go for the next one. But I always felt like mine was a little different, and that's okay. It's not supposed to be a straight line. At least I wish it was, but you know what I mean? Like, it's a little more fun telling the stories now in this environment where it's like, yeah, like swerve left, swerve right, almost got hit by head-on traffic, and then like somehow, woo, we're there, right? And like that's kind of how mine went. So.
And that somehow got you into coaching as well. So after the Chicago stint, you're looking for jobs, and I'm sure there's interest at the American League level. And now, how do you pick? Where's the best chance for me to get up to the big squad? What else is going on? You end up with the Anaheim organization. Yeah,
and then there goes. Now this is when the ball starts to bounce. And I always say, like the goalies are like a bouncing ball. If your ball never bounces, if you stay on one organization, you're good. But as soon as you move from one to another, that thing doesn't stop, and it just keeps bouncing until it runs out of steam. And so my ball started to kind of pick up some steam, and away we go. So I actually came to Calgary the next year.
You're on PTO,
we did a PTO there, and it was, hey, let's be serious. They were going to, I think it was China for a preseason. Right. So they need some warm bodies. Totally good. Brad Pascal, I owe him a huge solid because he was a World Juniors. He was on my World Juniors team, whatnot. So he said, hey, come in. I can't guarantee anything, but it'll be a spot. Yeah, good. And 2 goalies got picked up off waivers with the Marlies or the Maple Leafs, McElhenney and Pickard. So time to call Mr. Dubas up and
back to Toronto.
I got to cash that favor in that he owed me. So I, long story short, but I was able to actually reach out to him and make sure it all worked. I got on a plane that night and I was back in the Marlies for round 2. So it started there. Didn't go so hot. So that was the one where looking back on the whole thing, I wish I could have had that probably 2 months back, but it was, Sheldon Keefe was the coach and Dubas was the GM, and I couldn't find my footing. I just couldn't. I don't know what it was. And signal a trade to Anaheim, and it was probably the best thing that could happen to me, right? We found out I got traded at the Christmas party for the Toronto Marlies. So we're at the Christmas party. I got my daughter, my wife. We're all like having a great time. Santa gives her a present, and then I see like somebody giving me the old like, hey, get over here. So I came over there and oh yeah, hey, Merry Christmas. Yeah, I traded you to San Diego. Oof, like that's gonna like give me a second on that one. I said, do you want to tell my wife or should I go? Hey, you could bring her over here. So I think Allie was pumped at that point because we'd had enough. She's seen me miserable for a few months in a row there now, but
and it's Christmas in Toronto, a little different than the weather in San Diego.
Yeah, it was like pack our bags, we're off to the beach. So on to San Diego, and that I guess led me into the coaching thing, and that's where this all started.
You had the I'm trying to think of the character now in Slapshot, but the player coach year where
Reggie Dunlop.
You were Reggie Dunlop in net for a while there, where it'd be like, okay, I got some young kids, some pieces of clay, I got a mole, I got to teach. And then, it's our 3rd game in 4 days, Glasser, and you go, you can play some too.
So I got to play as a player when I got traded. That was the end of my players' contracts. And then again, a kind of a funny part that I don't get to talk about much was then I got brought back as a player who's responsible for coaching. And so I think the official term was goalie mentor or goalie. I can't remember. They used a couple different terms, but they took my name off the game notes as coach because that would have been a faux pas. And like you said, it kind of started to get fun then. That was one of my favorite years. It's the COVID year, and like there's no hockey. And now I'm like, I'll show up to the rink for a 7:00 game. I'd show up at like 3. I do my coaching stuff from 3 till 5. And then I'd give it like one good, we good here in the coach's room, and yep, you're good. And then I'd go put my player stuff on, and I'd have to go like back up for the game and, be a player for the rest of the game. And then the game would end, and I'd come back to the coach's room and clip the video and get it ready for tomorrow, and away we go.
And then you're finding time to fly in there as well.
Yeah,
it's just wild.
That started to kind of, again, get things moving.
So you're still with the Ducks organization in San Diego. How's it been? I mean, when you look back at that first year where you're playing and coaching, I mean, you're probably just trial and error. What do I do here? Calling the guy in Anaheim for help. But now you're much more established in the profession. How do you like coaching goalies?
No, it's been awesome. And I I didn't ever want to be a goalie coach. I had a few along the way, and this isn't a shot at anybody, but it was a few along the way that I looked at and I said, that's not who I want to be when I'm done this. When I'm done, I want to like step away and thank you very much, exit stage left, and you'll never hear from me ever again. But you know, it was my wife. She said, hey, like, why don't you just do it your way? Don't do it the way that they did it. Do it your way. And I had a lot of good influences. I had a lot of really good goalie coaches, and I wanted to take bits and pieces from what they taught me and then say, all right, yeah, no, I can do it that way. So that's what I did. And right off the bat, I think a few people kind of, you know, laughed at a few of the things I did because it was the way I wanted to do it. But it's kind of my
What's
way.
an example of that?
I mean, I had a goalie coach out of Edmonton. John Stevenson's his name, and he's worked with Braden Holtby. He gave him credit, I think, when he won the Vezina for changing his career. And John would do a drill with me when I was struggling on tracking pucks, and he'd put a laundry bag over my head. And guys would exactly what you're doing, like hysterical laughing. Yeah. Like, this can't be for real. And you couldn't see because this bag was just impairing your vision. Yeah. And I was like, this is nuts. It was so good. And you could never do it in pro hockey though, right? Because these guys are like, they're going to laugh at you. And I said, well, big deal. Who cares? We're all big boys, right? So sure enough, I brought out the laundry bags one day and I like stuck them on the goalies' heads. And I was like, hey, we're going to practice with these on today. And a pitcher made it to Anaheim and like, I got laughed at. And I'm okay with that, right? It's like, I'd rather get laughed at. I asked the goalies, are you guys comfortable with this? And they said, yeah, there's no problem with it. So we did it. And like I said, I credit John for that because he did it with me in an environment where like, we were in Kootenay. There was no media or anything. And, but like, the narrative was always like, you'll never get away with this at the pro hockey levels. Well, yeah, you can. And it's fun. And it's supposed to be a little bit fun. And you get better. So like, what are we doing here? Like, let's lose some of that. I don't know, some of that, those dinosaur tendencies that tend to linger.
And so the concept behind it being like, you impede your vision, you got to work harder for positioning or to hunt to find pucks.
Hunt to find pucks. So just the best comparison, you know, a baseball player holds two bats or has the donut on the bat. When he's warming up, you take it off the bat super light, right? You have this bag over your head. You can barely see the puck. You got to actually watch the puck into your glove, your blocker. You take the bag off for the last 10, 15 minutes of practice. It's like the puck looks like a beach ball, right? And
I know in the NFL, I think it was in vogue like 10, 15 years ago, they'd have these glasses that like
same thing.
Blinks and it cuts your vision for, you know, 1/8 of a second. And it's kind of like, you really got to work for tracking and for quarterbacks to do that while watching people run their routes. You take it off. It's like, oh, this is wow.
Exact same. And we even use those glasses as well. They're just harder to fit under a helmet.
Sure.
But it's same concepts, same concepts. Right. And there was lots of those kind of things where like, you know, I had a theory on playing goalies as well that again, I'm not reinventing the wheel, but it was always, I love to know when my next start was, whether I won or didn't win. And so you pitch these ideas to coaches and you know, there's tons of like feedback and kickback, or if you want to call it, and then that's okay. It's okay to like, I'm new. I was allowed to make mistakes. So I really wanted to kind of push what I wanted to do off the bat. And some of it worked, some of it didn't work, but we were able to almost lay out 2 to 3 months worth of goalie schedule at one time. Now, one injury and this whole thing, you rip it up, you start over. But you know, I always hated the narrative, if you win, you stay in, because it's okay to like win and then go practice and feel good. 90% of my career, I practiced miserable because we'd lost. And now it's your job to go practice for a week and a half and 2 weeks. And all you want to do is just stop the puck and get back in the net. And then when you win, you wouldn't practice because it was like, well, I won, so I'm playing the next day, so I need the day off. And I'm like, well, this is backwards. Like, let's flip this. So it's like, you win. Okay, practice for 3 days and feel good about yourself, and then watch the other guy play. And then you're going in on Saturday no matter what. It's Wednesday, so Thursday, Friday, and away we go. And there's things like small little things like that are fun to kind of approach now from the other side.
It is interesting, and I think specifically here in Calgary, like knowing Jordan Sigalet a bit, and I know you know Jason LaBarbera. You would have met both those guys when you passed through, if not at other junctures.
I think you set me up with both of them. Well, not Barbs, but for sure Siggy. I think that's how I met him.
I couldn't get enough of the goalie stories, and we got our good buddy Brusty and a few other guys that played net over in Russia. If you get goalie stories out of Russia, there's no better stories than that. You guys are nuts, and you have to go to the craziest place on earth. Yeah. I'm in for that. So we set up a goalie lunch. I think that's where you guys maybe first met, but I think they would be very open to things like that. And, you know, right or wrong, I don't think Darryl wanted any part of that. I think the way that he wanted his goalies to be was uncomfortable.
I totally agree with that.
And it's like, if you know you're Jacob Markstrom, that I am going to start on Thursday and there's a Monday, Tuesday, and I'm getting one and, Vladar's getting the other, maybe everyone can operate in an, okay, I need to be at my best at this time and then at this time. And like, you can work towards that peak performance in 2 windows of the week, rather than being like, I don't know who's playing tomorrow. I'm going to bed and I'm like, my mind's racing. I don't even know if I'm playing tomorrow.
Yeah. And like, you couldn't have hit the nail better on the head there. That I've been very lucky. I've worked with some coaches that are open to new ideas. And even if they're not open to my ideas, they tell me straight up, and that idea gets flushed down the toilet and we start over. But sometimes as goalie coaches, it's your job to feed information and your job to provide maybe a different perspective, but it doesn't always go over smooth. And your ideas, it might be a bad idea, right? And so I'm not close enough to the Flames to know exactly what went on here and that whole environment. But like, I can speak from my personal situation. I have like maybe my mentor as the goalie coach in Anaheim, and I several times will go to him first before I try putting a bag on a goalie's head. And then from there, you kind of feel it out and you work with these coaches. And like I said, you make some mistakes, but I've been okay making mistakes because I'm new. I'm supposed to make mistakes and see what happens.
Well, and look, it means you're trying new stuff, and some of that stuff isn't a mistake. It works. You keep it.
Sure.
I like that.
Sure. And and a couple young European goalies that are pretty pliable. And so that was what I was handed when I first got into this coaching thing. And it was like, here, these guys have never even been in North America. So it's like, help them get a driver's license, help them find an apartment. They don't know what a social security number is. They don't know, like, okay, what's the credit score? And so it's like the simplest things. They're 20-year-old men and they're fully functioning adults. I'm not trying to make them sound like, but they don't know any of this
They
stuff.
come from the other side of the world. It's their second or third language.
Sure.
Yeah.
Their goalie coaches up until 20 have taught them how to do a butterfly and an RVH. I don't need to touch on that right now, but what I do need to do is make sure that they can get to the rink. And so let's get them a driver's license, right? And once they're at the rink, then this is pretty easy. Away we go, right? So there was, my first couple of years was a lot of that. And now, it's kind of taking me down a different road.
Yeah, an interesting team. I mean, lots of young talent, but clearly missed expectations. Patty Verbeek, his second full season coming up here. Like, that's an interesting spot they're in. They got a bunch of young kids again.
Yeah, you know what? I'll give him some credit, Pat, because he's got a plan and we're sticking to it. And lots of times, guys, at least from what I've seen as a player, is you stick to a plan and then you don't. And we're gonna do this right. And like you said, we got a bunch of young players. I think there's more coming, right? Yeah. And all we're talking about right now is how good our defensive prospects are. I think we got some unbelievable young goalies coming up. A couple pretty good centermen. We drafted 1 second overall. You know what I mean? So is it going to be pretty next year? Probably not yet. But is that Pat's okay with that? And I think everybody's okay with part of, exactly. And we're going to get there. And he's been very clear with anybody that asks, is like, if you want to be a part of this, then it's going to be some work. It's probably going to be a little bit ugly for a little bit here, but that doesn't mean the work doesn't have to be done. It just means maybe there's more work to be done, and then we'll get there one day. And that's kind of the mindset we all have right now. Yeah.
On this league too. Doesn't take long when you got young, talented kids, and they're starting to pile up there.
Yeah. And that's kind of where we're at. And I'm partial to a few of them. Obviously, I kind of played almost with some of them as a player coach. And
Lucas Dostal's a guy you've worked with a ton.
Sure.
And he's a European netminder. Is that sort of the guy that you feel like you've had your fingerprints on the most?
Yeah, he'd be the guy that I've worked the closest with, I guess. And he came in. Actually played in Calgary last year, and you guys were able to muster the comeback on him. But he's come in, and I think, we have him, we have Stalock, and Gibson would probably be our 3 guys in Anaheim, and how that all shakes out to be determined. But I think Doss he's right there. Like, he was an AHL All-Star MVP last year, and he's knocking on the door. And I think I'd compare him. I think he'd compare himself to the guy we have here in Calgary, Dustin Wolf. And so now I get to work with a guy like that, and it's fine tuning a guy like that. He's a pro and whatever. And then we have some young guys. We just drafted a guy in the second round from Italy. He's 6'6", and he can skate. And
he's a different piece of clay.
Yes. So I think my wife is already planning our next summer vacation. She thinks that we're going to Tuscany next year.
Why wouldn't you
scout this guy?
It's
right?
Work, babe.
I don't think that's quite where he lives in the southern part of Italy. But anyways, so we got a bunch of young prospects, and those goalies, they're all different. And my job is to kind of get my fingerprints on them, see what I can do.
Okay, so other life updates. How old's your daughter?
Yeah, she's 5. She started school last week. I can't believe it. The U.S.
Wow.
starts school too early, so they're back in San Diego.
And you guys are almost full time. Like you don't come back to a house anymore. You are
No.
coming back as a visitor to Calgary in the summers.
Yeah, we redid the flip last summer. So we sold our place here in Calgary, bought one in San Diego, and so we came back and rented off a friend this summer. And then next year we'll see what happens next year, but we'll be back again in Calgary for sure. It seems to work for us. The other way was so backwards and messed up, spending 2 months here and
owning the place,
owning a place to rent it out to somebody else and blah, blah, blah. So,
tell us about the goalie camp. You got a hat, Jeff Glass goaltending. I was out chatting with some of your kids, lots of different age groups, but obviously this time of year, your big guns are getting ready to head to camp if they haven't left already. I mean, Europe's rolling. I think the KHL season, I think, it's already started, isn't it?
Yep. No, you're spot on. I appreciate you coming out. The kids love that. We had, for anybody that would listen, there was a kindergarten class going on above. I think a basketball game next door. We were trying to do audio
Tunes
clips.
were going.
You had audio clips that weren't working, so I apologize for that. But no, the camps have been great.
I always wanted to work at that We Wanderers preschool. I checked the box. So life level unlocked.
Oh, it was something up there. The camps have been great, and it's always been something I've wanted to do. I think I worked the camps as a demo goalie or whatever you want to call it, instructors, but I wanted to run my own camps. And so I started them 3 years ago, and they've been steadily building every year. I think this year is for sure our best year as far as camps. And the story I like to tell about camps is I was lucky enough to work with a goalie coach, and he brought together 6 of us every summer, and it was a different 6, but I was lucky enough that he invited me every summer. And the names were big. They were Carey Price and Ray Emery and Jason LaBarbera, Chris Mason, Devin Dubnik, and he would put the 6 of us on the ice, and he'd set up like 2 or 3 drills, and he just let it go. And the whole concept was like learn from your peers. And it was, these drills were properly set up and monitored, and the shooters were high quality. And I remember looking at that going, I want to recreate something like this, not only at the top level, but like all the way down. And so how do you do that? You kind of got to create that environment. And so that's how I set my camps up, is where you come out and you're going to be around your peers. I want your peers to push you. I try to bring out shooters that are maybe a level or 2 above what the level the goalies are playing at. Challenge them. And we get together. And this year, the off ice took on a little bit different look. We brought in some non-sport specific characters to kind of make my goalies athletes, right? And I feel like goaltending right now, I don't want to say in Canada because that's a real generalism, but we're falling a little bit behind. These goalies that are coming out of other countries are just freaks. They're athletes. They can run, they can jump, they can throw a football, so we brought in the top dogs from the lacrosse guys in the area. We brought in one of the Cavalry FC guys, and I want these goalies to not just be goalies and not just be good at tee pushing and shuffling, but be an athlete that can also play goalie. So that was kind of how camp went this year, and it was a big success.
Sweet. And so tell you have a morning meeting.
Yeah.
Not today because you're doing this, but
right.
If you weren't doing this, tell us what you'd be up to.
Yeah. So this goes back to the flying thing. So we, I think the best way to describe the flying job is kind of like goaltending, I guess, is like when everybody else is like dodging out of the way of the hockey pucks, us goalies, like we stand in there and like maybe try to get hit in the face with it.
And that's weather.
And that's what I do with the flying thing, is everybody's landing. All these planes are coming into land and we're taking off and we're going to go get ahead of this thing. Right. So every day at 11 a.m. we come in and we do a brief, and we have meteorologists that are way smarter than us that can kind of like set an outlook for the day, maybe a 2-day outlook. And they let us know whether we stick around the airport or they send us home and stay close or good for the day. And then if there is weather in the area, we'll come back. We'll head up, and we have 2 kind of types of cloud seeding, they call it, but we'll go below the storm and kind of get ahead of it. And then there's a second type that's above the storm, and both types are super fun. And and
that'd be some fun flying, because these would be some interesting machines, and you're not going in the still air. There's usually a little chaos if you're around the storm.
Yeah. My first time doing it, I remember thinking like, no, there's not a way this is right. Like we're doing, like someone's punking me right now. But then you do it, something, no, don't, this is definitely how it is. But it's some of the most valuable flying I've done. You learn a lot about weather and what to do and what not to do. But anytime you see those King Airs doing circles over your house, we're trying our best. We're trying to keep those storms to a minimum, and so that everybody can get in their car and not have golf ball size hail on their cars.
Unreal. Treat having you in.
No, this is fun.
If you want to hang for a bit, we'll show you what's happening in the world of sports and nonsense.
Let's do it.
It's are you familiar with the Pinder Report?
Yes, I am.
So usually
there was a few summers there where I was around, and at 6 a.m. when you're heading to the hockey rink, the Pinder Report would come on. So yeah, no, I'm definitely familiar.
So we're going to load her up here. We're going to start. I should first off tell you, Pinder Report brought to you by Village Honda, as always. And they got a big event going on. It is their Honda and Acura Show and Shine. That's coming up this Saturday. How about this? Best Hondas and Acuras in the city on display, family friendly, no charge for spectators. And if you want to register your car, it's just $10. You can check that out. Visit Village Honda for more information. You can RSVP or register your car. And the Subi Foundation is where all proceeds are going. They're not going to pocket that $10 for your car. They're going to give that to charity. Love that. Also, they've got new in-stock inventory on the ground. You can start your automotive adventures at Village Honda, where new vehicle pricing is MSRP. And I believe they're still going to trip vouchers to Vegas for 2 if you sell your car at Village Honda. Love that stuff. Let's get into it. We start with the NHL. Marcel Hossa. Marion, that's the good one. Marcel wasn't bad. You would have been around then.
I got Marion Hossa stories. I don't have Marcel Hossa stories.
Well, Marion's got more stories to tell after this past week because they did a retirement goodbye Marion Hossa game. This has got to be in the Czech Republic, I imagine. He is Czech. It's going to be Czech.
I think it was Slovak. Yeah,
so this is obviously in Bratislava, guys. It's in Slovakia.
Trenton. You're getting closer.
It's somewhere in there. And then this is, let's have a look. What's going on? So there's some names here. Miro Shatan. We got Taves is out. Look at that. He's not retired at all. There's Johnny T. Dustin Bufflin. Big buff the stuff. That's a big 3. Is that a goalie jersey? 3-3. Another 33 is Zdeno Chara onto the ice. Another Slovak there. This is quite the crew. And look at the big crowd, big building over there. Pretty unreal. I got a kick out of this. There's some names there, and there's the legend himself right there. Just apparently a physical specimen, Hossa.
Absolute. One of the best guys. He takes care of himself. Like I was in Chicago when he came down with a rash or he was allergic to his equipment. And it was, I couldn't believe it. This guy is like
Temple still.
The reason you can get that many guys to fly to Trenton
in
this time of year is because he's that good of a guy. Like he is unreal.
And were you in Ottawa and he was in Ottawa?
I was in Chicago.
No, I know Chicago there. He was Ottawa back at the beginning, but you might have missed him.
Yeah, but I was just a smelt. No time for me then. I barely got near that dressing room in Ottawa. Yeah.
Do you like an awkward handshake? Because I got one for you. This is a new part owner of the Washington Commanders. Hey, it's preseason, guys. You got to work on your handshakes and get them ready for regular season. Joe Buck and Troy Aikman are doing the call of the game. It's preseason, and one of the part owners of the Commanders coming in to you have a little chat with about what's going on with the team. They just bought the team from a noted jerk and new owners.
Yeah, I mean, you're no stranger. You're no stranger to professional sports teams, managing general partner of.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
If you missed it, Troy Aikman is moving his hands and gesturing.
Professional.
And the guy just grabs his fingers. This is not a handshake. Look at Aikman. He's loving it. Awkward party. We go from there to the Seattle Mariners are a big problem for the Toronto Blue Jays right now. They're hottest team in baseball. They are rolling, and Luis Castillo is all vibes. They got up yesterday pretty big on the Chicago White Sox. Castillo, one of the best pitchers in the game. He wasn't really trying to trick anyone. Here's a tweet from the pitching ninja. 47 fastballs in a row. Just here's my best. Have at her. Good luck to you, because even when you know what's coming, you're not hitting this thing. Now, he's got a 2-seamer, a 4-seamer, but literally Castillo just pumped heaters. 47 pitches in a row.
Very few hiccups.
Heater.
Hancock went down last night, but
Heater.
We saw
Heater.
the confidence
high 90s,
and the presence. It's all part
lots
of
of
the battle.
movements.
Nice.
Like literally 47 in a row. Must be fun. Hey, you got a big lead, and all you do is pump heater.
On the track.
That's good there. He was good. They win again. Blue Jays open a 3-game set in Baltimore against the Orioles. They're probably the best team in baseball, and the team that has now passed them and holds the final wild card is the hottest team in baseball. That's Seattle.
So I don't know. I'm not baseball, but like, what's the most tracked fastballs in a row? Like,
I don't even know if people would keep track of it. That's just for a starter. You're supposed to have a large repertoire, like 4 or 5 pitches, and he does have 2 there that he's using. It's a 2-seam and a 4-seam. They'll move differently, but you're usually trying to change speeds a lot because it makes it harder for hitters.
Right.
He's just saying, no one's hitting my fastball. I'm not even pretend to fool you. Like, you can't hit it, and until someone does, I'm still going to throw it, which means you're having a good day as a pitcher.
Feeling good.
Yeah. The opposite's when, everything you're throwing gets hammered. That wasn't it yesterday for Castillo. The NBA, I guess, has parted ways with one of their social media people. Let's have a look on Facebook to see how this went. This is the NBA account on Facebook. How do I log out of this? Haven't worked here in weeks. Anyway, the NBA overextends its social media employees greatly to the detriment of their health and social lives for a salary of less than $50,000 annually after taxes. I work 14-hour shifts. Shout out Adam Silver. We don't get health insurance until 90 days. That's silly, isn't it? Glad I resigned. No need for a job to get in the way of your happiness. Donate to mental health causes. Peace. Maybe take the passwords and change those when you get rid of your social media.
Everybody should be allowed one of those tweets when you get fired.
I think that's a good call.
Yeah,
Be like, yeah, okay, we'll leave that for 24 hours, then we'll delete it. Sorry, Johnny. And then I think they know who that is too. So,
Yeah, they might.
just spitting the truth. That's all. We're fans of fans fighting, and this fight, not very preseason-y. This is mid-season form. Let's head to some NFL preseason for a tilt in the stands. I believe this is NFL preseason. Oh yeah, this is we got Cincinnati and San Fran. A lot of bodies here, and you're gonna watch Cincinnati hat with the young shirt. It's weird. He's with the Cincinnati hat and the San Fran T-shirt. And then behind, bodies flying. Look at 2 hands going.
Oh, Jerry Rice.
Double lawnmower going on. And security can't get there quick enough. It feels like the whole section's going on. My goodness. And security up. Yep, Thelma's going to get you out of here. She's in charge. You're out of here, George. And usually when these things you think they're over, there's another wave. Jack, not the best fan fight, but again, for preseason we'll take it, right? Like
We're getting warmed up too.
that's right. Yeah. By week 3, you're going to be in great shape there. And this dude got KO'd. Keep an eye on this guy here with the ripped shirt. He is woozy as heck. They had the well done knuckle sandwich on rye. Oof. Anyway, there's a little. And speaking of fights, street fights also entertaining. Don't know where this is, but I'm guessing it's late and it's after the club. It happens quick. Eyes peeled, Jeffrey. Okay, because this is. That's a direct hit. Guy in the yellow. Good night. And see you guys. I'm out of here. Bang!
That's two right on the button.
Houston Astros fan got busted badly. Now, what do you think he's getting busted for? He's at the ballpark. He's wearing his gear. What's he getting busted for? What do you not want to do getting busted at the ballpark on camera?
That could be a long list. I don't know.
You don't want to be making out with someone that's not your wife on the kiss cam. You don't want to be picking your nose. You don't want to, just be respectable. And this one, I didn't notice it till the very end. He's undercover, I guess. Jack, is that fair to say?
Big swing from Bogey.
Enjoying the
It's always
game,
nice
no
to
big
remember
deal. Fix his hair. Oh, what's going on? Hey now.
Watch this.
Whoa.
Hey, wait a minute. And
Who wears a visor to the baseball game, though? That's what I want to know.
Guy with fake flow.
Yeah,
that's right. There's a big visor problem out there. I don't know that it doesn't affect many people, but I can't wear a hat.
Yeah,
I need visors for golf.
Okay,
no
so you
pro
wear a
shops
visor,
have visors anymore. It's like, sir, this isn't 1987. We're out of visors. I'm like, come on. I need a visor.
That's the first time I've seen a visor like that.
Yeah, that's a special one there. And finally, I think Boomer. Have you met Boomer?
Yes, I have at the old place.
Yeah. He's usually flying out of there, and you'd be coming in the 9 o'clock hour, something like that. He was having a yard sale the other day, and classic Boomer, just so negative. I mean, come on, man. The world's not that bad. Nothing really mattress. Who chairs? I think those are free. So if you're looking for any furniture, that will be your Pinder Report for the day. Again, Village Honda, big event coming up on Saturday. It is the Acura and Honda show and shine. Some of the best in the city on display. Check it out. They're up in the Northwest Auto Mall, villagehonda.com, your dealership for life. We've got a Betway bet to get to, and then Tommy Wilden Jr. sit down. Long show today. What the hell are we doing? We're going to be flirting with 2 hours here.
You guys are working hard.
You're so good at telling stories. Like,
no.
Damn it, Jeff.
No,
It's
it
your
wasn't
fault.
me. I'm just
lots of comments loving this.
Sit back and watch.
Okay. Betway Bets. Betway. 19 plus. Ontario only. Bet the responsible way. Betway. Let's start with the CP Women's Open, Canada's national LPGA event. Brooke Henderson has won this tournament before. She's 22-1. You don't want to cheer for a good fashion Canadian girl at a Canadian event? Get out of here. Get your maple love going for Brooke Henderson to win. 2,200. Yeah, 22-1. Jeff, if you bet $1, how much would you win?
$220.
You'd win 22.
Damn
Good try
it.
there. That was close. Okay, we'll also move to the majors. It is Toronto at Baltimore, beautiful Camden Yards. The Trash Birds are very good. Baltimore may be the best team in baseball this year. But our boy Kikuchi, you say Kikuchi, I say Ace. He's been sensational of late, coming off maybe his best start in the bigs. Needs to hit just 6 Ks for me to cash in plus 220. I'm all over that in a huge series for the Jays, who have watched Seattle pass them. They are now, though, as Seattle swept Houston. So the good news is Toronto's gained some ground on Houston. They're within a game of the second wild card, game and a half of the second wild card, 1 game from the third wild card. And we got, 37 games left, something like that. It's going to be a fun sprint to the finish in the American League wild card. Those are Betway bets of the day. Betway, bet the responsible way. Tommy Wheeldon Jr. stopped by yesterday. We'll close the show with this great chat about Cavalry FC. They're into the final third of the season and a huge victory over York last weekend. Big game coming up this Sunday against Pacific FC. I mean, you invite someone in, and not only do they bring us gifts of chocolate and beer, but they make sure that the label we've given them is accurate and current and up to speed. Top of the table, Tommy. Top of the table, Tommy of Cavalry FC. Tommy Wheeldon Jr. How are you, buddy?
Oh, thanks. I thought I was a poor house guest when you'd first opened the show, and I didn't bring anything to wish you a happy housewarming. And this is more congrats on a great show. So thanks for having me on.
Well, hey, it has been a while. I feel like, geez, when was that? Are we talking like
in the summer, wasn't it? Yeah.
I don't even know. I think we started this in October. It had to be early.
Yeah.
And it's good timing because most of us have been vacationing and playing some long form nonsense all summer here. Good nonsense. Mm-hmm. But the beer fridge is finally just emptied. It's been backlogged. So the timing's impeccable, as is the timing of this conversation, because you had a big win on the weekend at home against York. Martin Nash, your old assistant coach, and that crew. Another home win. You've been really good at home. It sounded like another great crowd. And top of the table indeed. This has been quite a change of pace. I remember 5 games in chatting with you, and it was like, trust the process, 5 ties in a row, some blowing leads late. And you're like, you believe, but there's some stress and anxiety that comes with believing that a process might work, but it hasn't yet shown that it has worked. It seems like ages ago when you hadn't had a win, you were 5 draws in 5 games.
And listen, as a coach, you dive into everything you can to, the players, to the psychology, to documentaries. And I think, hadn't it not been for Ted Lasso, the cliche of believing and actually, the feel good story and actually just diving into the human element of our players and saying, look, we're actually trying something a bit different because, we've had good players, good championship runs, and playoffs have been a bit different. Here we've got 2 different trophies to chase. Mm-hmm. We've got the league, which gets you into CONCACAF as well, and a new trophy. And then you've got a new playoff format. So the placing actually really does help the first and second place because it gives you, a couple of bites of the cherry to get into that final. So, we wanted to trust the process, but in doing so, I had to get into the hearts and minds of our leadership group, guys that have been with us for a while, like Marco and Sergio, guys that are starting to be here 2-3, like your Dan Klomps and your Moosies, and ask them, how are they feeling with the way we're trying to play? We want to be braver, and we're seeing that. Look, we give up a goal on the weekend because we're trying to play, and 1 of 2 maybe goals, but we've scored more goals this year than anybody else playing that football. So when it comes to sticking to your principles, we've done exactly that.
It's got to be exciting. I mean, there was a couple of years that were scrambled by a pandemic that messed up everything. And, to see healthy crowds, I think almost all season, it's been really good. I mean, are you happy with where things are at? Has the Fortress become even more difficult for opponents to come play in?
Yeah, I think we are now after that win, the best home team in the league. Our crowd, again, always biased, but you go from like my family sit in the 408s, then you go across the crowd and you just see familiar faces, you see new faces. As you work your way around to the 109s and into the foot soldiers end, it's phenomenal to just see how much they care about it. Even at the beginning, you could feel their frustration. You're walking past after a couple of ties. We weren't losing, but a couple of ties, you could feel their frustration. Calgary's a winning city, right? It's no different. And we launched in a winning fashion. We want to make sure that we are a winning team. And even you look at Flames when they go off on the playoff runs the season before last. People like that. The Calgary Surge launched now a winning season. It helps. The city likes winners, so we're trying to be part of that group.
For sure. And it's also, I think, a feather in the cap of your ownership group, yourself, everyone on the business side. I mean, it's a unique property. This is not like any other event in the city. It's like, well, there's Calvary, but it's kind of like, no, it's a one-off. This is not like something else. Kudos to you guys for that. The next game coming up is Sunday. It's Pacific. It is 3 p.m. at ATCO Field at Spruce Meadows. They've been a good side for a while here. I think it was really young in the first couple of years. Yeah. And then a title. They knocked off the Whitecaps a few years ago in Canadian.
Yeah, beat us in that playoff run, right? The ball in or out debacle, right? They're
right.
Good. Sometimes you need a bit of luck. But what I like about their ownership and the way they're doing things with the coach, James Merriman's a young Canadian coach, and he's, imparting his ideas of trying to play. And it's a brave league. You're seeing that now. Like I get reference, when I talk to people back home in England and people come and visit and they're like, I can't believe the standard. Like everybody's really trying to play in a brave way. And it's not like how you'd imagine Canadian football to be. People thought it would be like hockey, dump and chase. And it's actually the opposite. We probably overplay in some ways, that everybody wants the ball to the feet. Everybody wants to try and play through the thirds. And it's good. It's making for some really good coaching. And then everyone seems to have this now 2 formations, one in attack and then one in defense. And I think it's really coming in leaps and bounds.
And it's funny because internationally, Canada, prior to this generation now that we're seeing John Herdman coach, it was we need to park the bus and get lucky and win 1-0.
Yeah.
But this league doesn't have many teams that try to do that.
Well, I think now you're seeing, like I was talking to Nash after the game, he's had 2 3-3 games back to back. We've gone 3-0 against Forge, and then 2-3 we lost at Valor, and then we've just won 2-1. As goals because there's more bravery. I think it's more a case of trying to win versus trying not to lose. And I love the bravery. John Herdman's been a big influence on that because the way he took the Canadian men's to there, to Bev Priestman, the way she's created winners out of the women's team that won the Olympics. I know it was a tough run in the World Cup this year, but sometimes that's just a changing of the guard, and new players are now coming on the next cycle.
Does this year feel like there's been more change, whether that's philosophically on the pitch or personnel wise, than other years? I mean, you have made some in-season moves and you always do, but is it just because we're in this season that it feels that way? And because you had to sort of wait for that payoff of the new system you're playing?
You have to adapt. I think that's the biggest thing in coaching. What was right 5 years ago is not right today. And if I don't adapt, it's like the Charles Darwin one, the species that adapt are the ones that are going to survive. And I think that's true in coaching. If you stay, you're always going to have your principles. This is how I want it to be done. But I think I always looked up to Sir Alex Ferguson with Manchester United. He was at the helm for so long, and people thought he was a tough leader, and he was. But he was flexible with his methods as he got older, to the way he managed Wayne Rooney to, say, Brian Robson, and people on here who know the Man United teams of old will know that. But you have to. I've changed over 5 years. We've also been in the middle of a pandemic. So what these young men have been through, you've got to be aware of that. And also how you challenge them is a lot different than how I would have coached Nick Ledgerwood, who's now our assistant. But I'm fortunate that I have guys like Nick Ledgerwood and Leon Hapgood alongside me that, that they, for what I can't get to or miss, they can get to. And I think that's what you got to do. It's a shared leadership process.
It's been quite the pipeline leaving here. I know Joel Waterman went from you guys to Montreal Impact. He's now had an appearance on the national team at the international level. Dominic Sator chased some dreams in Europe. I believe he's still playing over there, in Poland, if I'm correct?
Yeah. But he's becoming a cult hero there.
Arabim Pebble has been phenomenal, and we watched him last year. You sold him off to develop him. Victor Laturi, the same thing. I know it's everything is win-win-win in sports, but you've always really been faithful to that second purpose. We want to win, but we also want to graduate players. We're developing for higher levels. We're not going to, put a ceiling on somebody here. We want them to go succeed elsewhere. And of course, you're financially rewarded if you can send someone to a much higher level.
So we've got a strategy, and this comes down to, got unbelievable ownership with the Southern family. I mean, Linda's a winner in herself in the way that she was previous Olympian. The type of shows that go on at Spruce Meadows is remarkable. Ian Allison, he's great to lean on for experience and advice. But when we talked about building a soccer club, it was a club, not a team. A team can win a championship. A team can go on, but in a salary cap league, you're always going to have a high turnover. We got $1 million to spend on players, and some players will max out and some players will sign for 2 or 3 years, but you have to be able to develop them and move them forward, hopefully. But in that time, you want to impact it. We've built now underneath it. We've got this under 21 system, which is basically 16, 17, 18-year-olds that we think could sign development contracts and then maybe future first team players. We've got the affiliation with Cowrie Foothills with what my brother runs that one. And we've just re-signed Tom Field, which is like a farm team for us. And then beyond that, you look at, Mo Farsi's another great example. He's one that's playing well and consistently in the MLS. If we can get them onto more established leagues, we've done our job for the football food chain in Canada. And if we know our place in the food chain, we're always going to be an export league. But it doesn't mean that we can't give young, and I think the under 21 rule in the league is fantastic because it gives young Canadians a chance.
I wanted you to talk about Gauthier Antigny as well as Willie Accio. They've been really big jolts of energy for your club. I believe both of them sort of like middle of the season type entries into bigger roles. Like, what have they meant to you? And are those going to be names that we're going to be hearing about at higher levels down the road?
Yeah, and that was the thing with Willie was, when we talked about Victor going to Ross County, Willie was another one that went, and I just put in an inquiry as a GM. I said, look, I noticed he was on loan. What's your plans for this coming season? And they were looking at either loaning him out or moving him on. And there was a couple of clubs that was interested in, the championship level. And I said, well, can I pitch to him? And what I did was the Arabin Pepper one. Arabin was in that same one where we thought he'd play for the full season, but literally he's gone from almost signing for Forest Green and then going to Luton Town within the space of 3 months. We said, look, to Willie, if he comes back and does what he's doing now, he won't be with us long. Hopefully we'll then have the negotiation power to be able to finish a season, but we want to open doorways. Gautier's, another one that took a little time to adjust because as we got rid of Arabin, we brought in Gauthier. And we didn't do it a like-for-like replacement. Same age group, but young players need time. They need time to learn the system you're trying to play. We feel we've got a very tactical system, and it can be quite complex. So what can we give them that just makes it easy for them? And what can we give them that they can just play off the cuff? And what are the non-negotiables? And when we've done that, Gautier's now hitting more of his stride. And that's what you see. And he's so exciting. And, I'll put Mael Henry in that bracket. Fans probably saw a little bit on this weekend and go, oh, I can see that now. But you got to have your futures, you got to have your nows, and you got to have your experience. I always think of 3 brackets.
Okay.
And Gauthier is certainly one now that we've started having some interest. And Willie, if he keeps scoring like that, there's not many wingers like that. You want wingers that can just attack people, score. But he's willing to work the other way too.
Speed with Gauthier. People have said he's Alphonso Davies quick. That's a statement.
That might have been me that started that rumor, but it was coming from our sports scientist. So Alex Potts, we do our testing, our speed testing. Well, how fast is he? And it was funny because the first one he did, it was like 34.5 kilometers an hour. I'm like, oh, that's decent. And we're looking around the room, and then I think it was a Doka Chima, big defender, got 35. And Gautier's so quiet. He's like, can I have another go? I went, why? Well, I didn't go full out. We're like, well, you topped at 34.5. No, I can go quicker. So then he gets there, and I think it was like 36.5, maybe 36.7 at top speed. But he's built as well. So if he comes running at you like that, and that's what you see, and he can terrorize defense because they want to play him physical. He's strong enough to hold it. He's got really good first touch. We actually want to work on different parts of his game to polish him up. But yeah, he is Alphonso Davies quick.
If you're going to continue to polish, you don't have this kid too long.
No. You can't teach speed, right?
Right? It's one of those weapons.
Yeah.
I mean, you can teach a lumbering guy all kinds of other stuff, but you can't give him that speed. You had some big changes mid-season. Jose Escalante's gone back to Honduras, if I'm correct. And Conte in a trade with Vancouver FC as well. Those were bigger deals from my perspective, but maybe every deal is part of a bigger piece of the puzzle for you. But just a thought on what, that's a pretty high end quality that departed. And yet it's timed in with you starting to play arguably your best soccer this season.
Yeah. And it was a tough one because when I did it, so you have to separate church and state as a head coach and a GM. Your GM, you have to think of strategy. You have to think of how, which players are going to be for the long haul, which players are going to be good on the run in. And as a head coach, what do I need for the game against Pacific? Right. So Kantav, wanted regular playing time and Gote was starting to play. Fiskey's a great squad player that he'll come in and add value to the team. Excellent pro. And he was finding that we were playing Jose lower or higher, Gote, and he was finding a logjam of players. And I said, listen, won't keep you if you're not happy. He'd approached about the possibility of a trade. Vancouver had called us just talking about players that they were trying to get rid because they weren't happy with the ones they'd got. Mickey's name came up, and in return, there was Mile Henry, who I'd heard a lot of and seen as a young player, and they weren't playing him. I'm like, but why would I trade? And then I had to go and do some work. And Oliver Minotaur is our head of recruitment now, Topher Fakunli, our assistant GM. So I had them work on, give me reasons, pros and cons. And what we found with Mile Henry was he's a futures. So if we're getting Gote to a place where we think we move him on, what's our next high potential player? And we felt he's one that we could filter in. And then we had the Willie Akio opportunity that we had to work in the back burner. And then Jose had, his family issue. He wanted to go back. And I know it was a bit of a crap show the way it came out, but it was well intended. I think he wanted to be with his family. He loves his football club. You showed that with the way he plays, but he's played 100 games for him.
Day one guy, right?
Day one guy. And they're tough to say goodbye to, but we've loaned him out for a year. It gives us time to see that is it going to be a permanent exit or maybe there'll be a return, but we don't need to make that decision today.
Yeah, fair enough. Last item for you. I saw an article online that I think if you want to dream, there's not a lot better than dreaming about Lionel Messi, if you're a soccer fan, coming to Atco Field at Spruce Meadows to play on the natural pitch here. It does seem like a dream. It's become much more realistic in the last month because his club in Miami has been on a heater. They're going to qualify for the same tournament you're hoping to qualify. And at the top of the table, as you noted, there's 2 spots for CONCACAF Champions League. You can win the league regular season or you can win the league postseason. You're in the running for both of those at this juncture, albeit early. And Miami's going to be in that tournament, it appears, as well. Crazier things have happened.
Listen, Kamal Miller, who plays with Lionel Messi, was in the 2018 playoff final against us for Reading United. Got sent off kicking Nico Pasquotti. He's now playing alongside Leo Messi. Life throws things at you very quickly. Lucas McNaughton was playing for Pacific, marked him in the Nations League in the final, Leagues Cup final. Sorry. So I'm a dreamer, always have been. The amount of times that you're told, you couldn't build soccer in the city, you won't do this, you won't do that. We're doing it. I would like to dream of the possibility to play against Messi one day. Why not? He's in our region. I think it's great that he's come to our region, and in 2026, when the World Cup comes through US, Mexico, and Canada, he's adding value to this side of the world, and it's interesting now if you look at it, because you've got the Saudi Arabia and MLS that are now grabbing people's eyes and attention, and you'll always have your 4 big leagues, but we're growing, and one day maybe Messi comes to Atco Field, and
I'm going to call in a favor on that day, Tommy, if you don't mind. I'll wear a yellow security shirt. I'll do anything just to stand and watch that one.
Imagine that. Have you seen some of the things my brother Jay says it. He said, look, how many times have you actually watched his games? And I said, well, probably the big World Cup games. Probably, you're tuning. And when he's playing for Barcelona, you'll watch the odd El Clasico, but it wasn't something like the Premier League I'll get up and watch.
Sure. Yeah.
He's like, now it's in our time zone. So even the other night, we watched the Forge in Halifax with a curry, and then we watched the Messi show right afterwards. And it's like, this is brilliant to watch him. Yeah.
Doesn't have to be 8 a.m. on a Sunday.
Yeah, exactly.
I was a big Barcelona guy, so you got to watch it a bunch, but it's magic. I don't really hold a lot of time for people that don't think he's one of the best ever, if not the best. It's like, I'm sorry. Like, everyone around him gets better when he's out there. It's not just a guy scoring goals.
And I'm telling my 14-year-old son now, the game's always about time and space. You know, and an old coach said to me, you know, a poor first touch is a thief of time.
Yeah.
Because you haven't got the ball in control. You don't know where the ball's going, and you're just creating chaos. So what Messi does is he walks, and it's like he's playing the game at a different speed.
Yeah.
It was like I seen something on X this morning talking about he walked for a minute before his goal.
Yeah.
A minute. He's walking around, everything's chaos, and then he recognizes the time to strike. He's like like an alpha male, like just going out for the hunt, isn't he?
Gretzky was the same way. Like the greats, they
Yeah.
make everything look easy, and they know where the space and time is. That was the same thing with Gretzky. It's wild stuff. Good to catch up. We need to do it more. And fans that are saying, "Hey, this has been a great ride," like tell us more about what's coming up, or people that still haven't been to a Cavalry game this Sunday against Pacific should be a good one. 3 p.m. Anything you want to hammer on here as you're coming into this final third of the season?
Yeah, so actually this is a top of the table clash. You know, I think they're in second place right now. We've just leapfrogged them. We're level on games played. I think we're a point ahead. Very good team. They've led the league this year, and we've now just leapfrogged them. So it's going to be a big clash. And those who haven't been to Spruce Meadows, you don't miss out, because it's an experience. And I say that as somebody that went to the Shore Golf Classic this weekend as a Calgarian. I'd never been. I'm like, I have to go to these events. You know, I want to go to a Calgary Surge basketball game. So share the love in this city. I think that it's a big enough city. Get yourself out there, because once we play Pacific now, we're on the run-in, and we once you're there, you'll come back. 3
home games after the Pacific home game. It's mid-September, and then 29th of September and October. I mean, you've got a lot of road games coming up. This is your chance. I'm going to suggest this is your best weather home game left that you got, but it's Calgary. Making bets on the weather would be idiotic. We're not going to do that. We're not doing that. It's been like hot. Like I felt like I've only worn my suit jacket once or twice, I think, through end of April through to now. Yeah.
It's been a hot summer.
Yeah. Well, keep the team hot. It's been great to keep tabs on, and hopefully we'll see you this Sunday.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks, Roy.